Hey guys, Steve Ferguson, your modern mortgage loan advisor. Thanks for tuning in today. I really appreciate you guys. And guess what? Today, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly around owner financing. And then I'm going to give you a brand new product at the very end of this video. Stay on board with me. You're going to love this new option that we have for both you, if you're an agent, or if you're a seller. Great options for you guys. So let's get started. All right, what is owner financing? Owner financing means that you own a home of some sort and that you want to sell it to somebody else and they want to use you as the bank, okay? Now, the property doesn't have to be free and clear in order for you to owner finance a note. You can technically get it done even if you have a mortgage on the property. It just means that you're carrying back a note. This new buyer is paying you mortgage payments and you're dispersing those payments wherever they need to go, like to pay your existing mortgage or taxes or insurance. That's kind of the basic premise behind owner finance. Now, owner finance has kind of gotten a bad name recently, or at least in the recent past, because there's a lot of investors out there trying to do what are called wrap mortgages, which means, hey, I'm going to buy your home, right? We're going to close. I'm going to be put on title. You're going to be taken off a title, but I don't really want to give you any money, but I still want you to carry the note on your side and take the risk, Mr. Seller, but at least it's now off of your hands. Then the investor would go in and they put a renter in the property and they would make cash flow based on that rental process. You as the seller would at least get your home sold, but you really wouldn't make a lot of money. And then you would really get paid out really when the refinance took place at some point in time in the future. The problem with that is a lot of investors will go in there, and if they run into any kind of challenges or if that renter moves out, et cetera, they could potentially back out of that seller finance note because they have no skin in the game. They didn't put a bunch of money down. And now you're back on the hook as the seller from the original property because your mortgage is still in place and you've got to start picking up payments and pick up the pieces and all those things. I'm not a fan of that product. I mean, there's reasons for it in some situations, and I understand emergency situations where that has to take place, but I don't think that's a great tool for the seller because the seller is carrying all the risk. Now, let's fast forward to what's going on today. In 2022, the state of Texas passed a new law regarding owner finance notes, and they put rules and regulations around what that product needs to look like. That's great news for everybody. And the reason that's important is because now we have parameters that everybody needs to meet. The first one is you have to use an attorney who specializes in owner finance notes, which we have one right now with our new product that's closed, I think, over 15,000 transactions on the owner financing side, which is awesome. Number two, your new buyer must be fully qualified to purchase a home using an owner finance note. That's where we come in. We're now part of that process to make sure that those buyers are fully qualified when they're making offers to you as the seller to make sure that they actually have an exit strategy to refinance when that time comes. And number three, you've got to use a title company that understands owner financing notes, and we have those things all tied up as well. So the past, which was kind of wild, wild west for owner finance notes, got a little crazy for a little while. Now we have rules and regulations starting in 2022. And the good news is now we've moved into a position of this becomes a very viable product. So let me explain. Owner financing can be a win-win-win for everybody. If you're currently a seller on a mortgage in, let's just say, Central Texas, 80% of everybody out there that owns a home either has an interest rate less than 4% or a free and clear property. And right now there's a lot of pent-up demand for buyers who are waiting around for low interest rates to come back, and they want to take advantage of those things. They just can't unless they go new construction. And those new construction builders are building in a lot of costs, et cetera, to buy those rates down to that number to make it more attractive to buyers. And that's the reason they're the only guys offering it right now. Well, with this new seller finance process that I'm about to go over with you guys, now you as the seller, or if you're an agent, now you work representing your seller can take advantage of that super low interest rate that you guys have and let the buyer take advantage of it as well, all while making money and setting up everybody for success. So let's break this down. Let's just argue that you're a seller. You've got a home that's worth $500,000. You bought it 4 or 5 years ago and you owe about 300 grand on it and your interest rate's 3.5%. The way that this works is you can mark up your interest rate, which is something we help guide you through, from a 3.5 to say a 4.99. So your first payout from a seller perspective is that rate arbitrage. That means you're making the difference between your 3.5% rate and the 4.99 that the buyer agrees to every single month as long as you carry that owner finance note. There's a lot of money to be made when you're the bank, so keep that in mind. So that's your first payout. Your second payout is the down payment. Here's how this works when you're doing owner financing. A buyer must be very well qualified to do an owner finance note. So my job is to make sure that that person meets that criteria. So number one is generally 20% down. Number two is generally 6 months of reserves in their bank account. Number three is excellent credit. Number four is an exit strategy. That means that they must have a way to qualify for a refinance once it's time to refinance on that property. So it's our job to look through traditional loan products, non-QM loan products, make sure that they have the ability to repay, and check all the necessary boxes and the guidelines that would be important for any bank to look at to make sure that the client is fully qualified. And then what we do, because you're the bank, Mr. Seller, is we present that borrower to you, assuming they're well qualified, and say, hey, here's what we've got. You know, this person's got great credit scores. They've got a great down payment. They've got the reserves. We have an exit strategy. Here's what the exit strategy is. Would you like to owner finance this home to this new buyer? If you say yes, then generally it's 20% down. So that's your second payoff, is you're going to get the down payment. Out of that down payment, they subtract out realtor commissions, right? So you've got a buyer's agent and a listing agent and any closing costs, and then you get a check for the difference. That's very standard. So we've gone over 2 payouts so far, the down payment and the rate arbitrage every single month. Now, generally an owner finance note is carried for anywhere between 6 months and 3 years. You as the seller get to make that decision, which is awesome. So if you're like, you know what, I'd like to carry it for 2 years or 3 years or whatever that happens to be, that's the process we present to any potential buyer, and then they get to approve that and move on down the road as well. Once that term has come due, and it's been the 2 or 3 years that you as the seller has agreed upon, then it's my job to refinance that buyer into traditional financing. We make sure that they're qualified, they're ready to go, we get that all paid off, and then you get your final exit, which is the remainder of whatever equity you had, all paid in one lump sum at the very end. So you get 3 payouts in this process. The beautiful thing about this process is, A, you're making money month over month while you're owner financing. And if you have a mortgage on that property, that buyer is helping you pay down that principal on the mortgage. The other beautiful thing about this process is the buyer is paying an independent third party their payments, and that third party, number one, is creating statements for everybody. That would be you as the seller, you as the buyer, everybody gets a statement. Number two, they report to the credit bureaus. So that way, for some reason, if the buyer missed a payment, et cetera, it would impact their credit scores. And number three, they disperse funds to everywhere that it needs to go. So for example, if there was still a lien on the property that you were carrying, Mr. Seller, they would pay the lien on your behalf, and then they would direct deposit funds into your bank account for the overage every month that you carry that owner finance note. So that's a really important process to make sure that that's getting taken care of. And that's another part of that Texas law that came out recently, is you have to use a third-party process to manage all of your payments. So that makes it seamless for you guys and efficient, and everything goes really well. So the beautiful thing about this owner finance process is, number one, you have a well-qualified buyer. Number two, you've got a good down payment, which is skin in the game. Number three, the seller gets to make money on rate arbitrage or a processor that works for everybody. This all comes together in communication and conversation, which is extremely important. There's no, gray area here. We all get on a phone call together. We all hash it out. We go over the numbers. We make sure that all those things match for everybody and what they want to do. And then the final thing is, you as the seller, if you are looking at an owner finance note and you don't like this buyer, you get to say, you know what, I'm just not comfortable with this, and we'll get them qualified the traditional route, and hopefully they'll make an offer and get it taken care of. So you have control over that. If you're a listing agent listening to this presentation, it's a great marketing tool to talk to your sellers about. It's just another tool in the toolbox to help attract more buyers, to compete with new construction, and to allow people to take advantage of those low interest rates that are not currently here. So this is a great way to generate business, help set yourself up for success on all sides of this process. And the buyer saves money as well, because they're paying less monthly payment. The closing costs are lower because on an owner finance note, you don't have to pay for an appraisal. You don't have to have some of these closing costs. So important details that everybody needs to know. Now, here's what's another step of this that you guys want to be aware of. In the bottom of the description of this video, there's a link to my Calendly. I want to talk to you guys individually if you're thinking about doing this. I'm going to walk you through some of the things about it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or the what if scenarios, or what if they don't make their payments, all those things. That's a great conversation that we can have one-on-one, and I'll explain to you what those things do. So drop in my Calendly, schedule a meeting with me, and let's get this process started for you and your family. By the way, a little thing for you. This works on any property type, including commercial. So awesome, guys. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.